In last week's episode, we talked about the D-Crastinate method, which is a tool that we can use to effectively fight procrastination. We talked about the first stage, which is education, where we gained an overview of procrastination in social media. Today, we will look at the rest of the stages in this method, and by the end of the episode, we guarantee that we will equip you with all the tools to fight against social media procrastination. The second stage of the D-Crastinate method is self-diagnosis. Here, we learn about the different kinds of procrastination and learn about the features of social media that facilitate these behaviors. There are 4 procrastination types. Avoidance is when you procrastinate to avoid working on difficult tasks or tasks you find unpleasant to do. Mood modification is when you procrastinate to change your mood and try to make yourself feel better. Escapism is when you procrastinate to distance yourself from real-life issues. Emergence is when you receive a notification, check it, and spend hours online despite having to perform other tasks. As a part of the self-diagnosis stage, we are inviting you now to think about which of these 4 you might fall under. And if you find that you may not necessarily fall into these 4 categories, maybe it's a combination or maybe it's none of the above, at least take the time to consider what are your real reasons for procrastinating. Now let's take a look at the features of social media that grab our focus and attention. The first are notifications, where there's so many to the point that people end up becoming busy because of managing and paying them attention. So much so that they don't end up doing what they're supposed to. Here are some countermeasures to fight against notifications. Number 1 is to set auto-reply messages. This just takes away your mind from having to respond to people when they ping you. Second is to show your availability. There is a big difference when people see that you are busy as opposed to available, and it can avert future notifications that could have come if it seemed like you're open to receiving them. And lastly, take advantage of some features on the smartphones. Smartphones now are smart enough to suggest if you're using an app too much and if you want to maybe mute certain notifications from certain applications. The next aspect of social media is its immersive design. This involves having personalized content where your timeline is filled with things that you find engaging and that you find entertaining. Because of this, you spend more time on it more than you intended to. Help against this, try setting a maximum amount of time that you will spend in social media, perhaps in a day or perhaps in a certain period of time. Say, I will spend 2 hours every 4 hours of work. Alternatively, it may be easier to just set a hard stop on social media, meaning I will not use it from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Connected to this is, again, utilizing smart features like setting a hard limit on the time use on certain apps. And while this is more manual, you can also take a look at the usage feedback that you have on your devices, which shows you just how much time you spend on your applications instead of doing whatever it is that you're supposed to do. Maybe this will help you get to thinking that I might be spending too much time on it after all. The next feature is what we call the surveillance of presence. This is when we send a message to someone and we constantly check if it's been sent, if it's been received, and if it's been seen. More importantly, if it's been replied to. To steer clear of this, here are a few suggestions. Remind yourself of your priorities. There are some things that will need checking and there are some things that will need your surveillance. But I'm pretty sure it is not every single thing. Remember that you have priorities for the day and go through your to-do list first before going into random activities. Just as mentioned earlier, auto-replies are also applicable here so that you don't have to worry about the message you're going to send to people. Being on social media basically means that you have another identity or some identity to uphold. And this is a feature that also facilitates our procrastination. We procrastinate because we try to maintain that persona or social image that we have, whether it be quickly replying to comments or constantly liking and sharing things. These are some of the implicit demands that we have because of the image that we project into our social media platforms. Some countermeasures have already been mentioned, like limiting and or tracking your usage, as well as auto replies. But one unorthodox way to approach this is maybe try setting new life goals or career goals. Try to steer away from social media dominating your everyday life. Have something that engages and captures your attention and focus instead. Last but not the least, interacting with people online prolongs our social media use. So when this happens and the conversation gets really good, it's important that you remind yourself and that person that you may have important tasks to do, especially when it's during work hours or school hours. It's also possible to use your availability or your status indicators. And finally, try and experiment with a chat timer so that you and your friend or family are reminded that we're only going to limit our conversation to this amount of time.
Roger that.
So at this point, we've introduced you into the kinds of procrastination and where you may fall under those 4 categories, as well as the different features of social media that draw us in. Let's move on to the third stage, which is planning and preparation. Basically, in this stage, we want to look at our resources and what tools are available to us so that we become more engaged in the things that we must do. The D-Crastinate method has identified 3 engagement tools. The first are rewards. Try identifying or creating a reward system for you if you hit certain goals, like not using social media in school for a week. You could reward yourself by having ice cream or whatever it is that gives you joy and pleasure. The second tool is reduction. Instead of trying to do everything at once, for example, quitting Twitter and quitting Instagram, quitting Facebook all at the same time, chop them up into small goals so you can have more space for more victories and more milestones to achieve. The last engagement tool is task commitment. And it's telling people that right now I want to focus on something, so please help me by not tagging and buzzing my socials. We've already talked about countermeasures earlier, but the third stage further categorizes them into 2. The first being technical countermeasures, and the second being socio-technical countermeasures. The main difference being socio-technical countermeasures is more people-oriented, such as auto-replies, while technical countermeasures are more for your personal reminder and personal use. The fourth stage is action. You have to do it. After diagnosing yourself and after preparing and planning, whatever you've planned out, do it. You have to do it. The D-Crastinate method suggests 1 week of implementation and just evaluate afterwards what techniques are working for you and where you think you can improve. The fifth stage is self-assessment. Here, you take the time to ask yourself, is the D-Crastinate method helping me address my problems in procrastination? Once you've noticed that things are effective, then keep at it, but don't forget to reassess your progress every now and then. Assuming that it is positive, then you are on your way to building digital resilience. If you fail to get noticeable control, or if you feel like what you're doing won't work for you in the long term, the D-Crastinate method has step number 6, error identification. In this stage, you're expected to answer some questions that are meant to help you re-identify your types of procrastination and the features that facilitate it. A bit like going back to stage 2, but now you have the experience of planning, preparation, and actions. You have better insight into the things that work and don't work for you. These are some of the questions that you will ask yourself in stage 6. Once you have answered the questions truthfully, you have better insight into your situation and how to address it better. Maybe you just need different countermeasures. But the method says if you find yourself procrastinating because of your peers, maybe take a look again into the socio-technical countermeasures. However, if you find yourself failing because of lack of self-control or poor time management, then maybe technical countermeasures are better suited for you. Social media is here to stay, and as with anything in this world, it has its pros and cons. And with that, it all boils down to how we use it and how we manage ourselves with respect to it. And as procrastination has slowly and has always been a problem for us, the D-Crastinate method offers us insight into how we can better manage ourselves with this problem. Remember that every second, minute, hour, day you spend procrastinating is another second, minute, hour, or day you will spend worrying. So what you can do already, just do it. Thank you so much for watching. Follow us at LitePsych on Instagram and hit the bell notification and subscribe button so you never miss out on the latest psychology in simple terminology. This is Jim. When it comes to stopping procrastination, the best time to start is right now. See you next time.